All right, hey guys, so video number 9, just wanted to give a quick update on the training side of the house. So I've been lifting for a long time, and even at my absolute strongest, I would consider like maybe slightly higher than mediocre from a strength standpoint, but always loved it, and it's always been kind of the core of what I've done, and I've branched off into some other things since. But the point to that is, I've been doing a lot of these movements for a long time. And, having a coach for the first time actually look at these videos and give me feedback, not only on, how to progress with rehabbing a serious injury, but also critiques on my actual lifting technique, was something that I really didn't expect. And so, I'll just give you, for instance, so, as I said, like the way the process works is I get a spreadsheet. It's got, kind of guidance for the lifts, sets, and rep scheme. It also has the RPE, the rate of perceived effort. I've never been a fan of that. I've never really cared, quite honestly, but I am thinking again, whether or not you like that metric with your training when you're healthy is another conversation. But I think with this, when you're coming back from something like this, that's probably an important thing to look at, just based on the amount of strength and I should say strength, the amount of effort you're having to apply to complete something. You probably don't want to be at the top end of that RPE when you're still essentially in the rebuilding rehabilitation phase. And so, so last week I sent over a couple of videos, one of which was my, incline bench and my RDL, and again, I've been doing those movements for a long time. Kind of in my head, kind of like, hey, I know how to execute these properly. But I got some feedback from Dr. Patrizio. The first was on the RDL, talking about your knees bending at the bottom of the lift. And I was like, I don't do that. My back's just, flat as a board, rock solid, whatever. And I go back and watch the video, and sure enough, like, my knees are kind of bending at the bottom. I don't know if I've always done that, or if that's just, again, because it's really the first time I've done those in months. So this week I was able to work on that. Worked up to some heavier weight, a set with 185. And again, and I've interacted with a few folks that are going through the same situation. That set with 185, like, my arms like shaking a little bit, which is really scary. I'm again very blessed, very fortunate. I've never had a serious setback like this. So, as I'm lifting, I'm going, is that normal or is this bad? Do I need to? But again, intuitively, logically, I'm thinking, no, I just haven't really done anything like this in a long time. Just like someone who has never, lifted a weight or hasn't lifted a weight in many years. The first time you do something that's even slightly challenging or heavy, like, it's going to be a little shaky. You're not going to have the stability and the memory of how to do those movements that you would have after years and years of practice. So, but I was able to, correct, watching the video, I've got it here, I was able to like reduce that kind of knee flex at the bottom. And then on my inclines, which the reason I bring this up is because I think it's quite possible, I'll never know, but that what he noticed there might have had something to do with me getting injured in the first place. He said, make sure when you're pressing to fully extend, fully lock out your elbows. And, some people will, debate about the need to do that. If you're really just trying to train a, particular muscle group, like if you lock out, you're kind of really more sitting on maybe the joint. You're not actually, using the tissue at that point. It's more kind of just sitting. I don't know, but at any rate, I look back at some of my older videos pre-injury, and all my presses that I had videoed, and again, these are inclines, not like overhead presses, but I never was locking out my elbows. And so again, sure enough, like watching my videos, like, oh yeah, I'm not. And not by like a little bit, but like by a pretty decent amount. It felt to me like I was locking that lift out, but I really wasn't. And so going back to the correlation between that and hurting yourself, what happened in my case was throwing a hook, and, my bicep was flexed, and then I had to go to full extension because, again, the guy stepped back and I was still trying to connect that punch. I went to full extension under, a lot of tension on the bicep, and that was when the rupture happened. So, it seemed to me, just thinking about coming back, making sure that I am fully extending and getting that tendon fully stretched and used to being fully stretched under tension. That's an important thing that I need to make sure that I continue to work on and stick with as I come back. So I this set this week, I bumped up the weight a little bit and did a set of 10 with 150, and it was definitely a little different because the whole time I was thinking about making sure I fully extended it. It's kind of hard to see in the video, but I know, I fully extended to the extent of my ability. Like, there was no way I could have extended that lift anymore. So, but all that to say, just having someone lay trained eyes on anything that you're doing, be it lifting or sport, and giving you feedback, it's just invaluable. You're never watching yourself do this stuff. You might take a video, to document something or just to see kind of how it looked or whatever, if you're aware of kind of your own technique deficiencies. But again, getting feedback like that from somebody who's completely objective is just going, oh yeah, they can see all these finer points that you might just miss because you don't even really know what to look for. So everything felt pretty good this week. Again, the nerve tingling sensation, particularly in the thumb and the wrist, is just always there. I'm just on the cusp of being 12 weeks post-op. So, I'm told nerve pain could last a year, in some instances. And so I'm prepared to, just deal with that. And it is still, again, this is a recurring theme. I apologize for sounding like a broken record, but the most difficult part to me through this has been those nerve sensations and being able to differentiate, is that just the nerve tissue refiring and kind of, resequencing and sending those electrical charges up and down my arm? Or is that, am I doing something harmful to my injury, the repair site? And again, my physical therapist who, showed some footage from that the other week, she's been tremendously helpful in just explaining, look at your scar, the trauma goes all the way down from the surface of your skin all the way down through the other side of your bone where that where they fastened it. So you've got a layer of cells, tissues that are all in various stages of recovery. Nerve tissue takes the longest by far of any of your tissue types to recover, and so that's what's going on. And if you go to grab something and you feel that, it's very jarring for me anyways. I've kind of gotten used to it, but at the same time, I don't know if you ever really get used to that, because again, your first thought is, oh crap, what did I do? But again, I think that's just part of the process. And so if anybody watches this and is in the midst of it or on the other side of it and can, share how that aspect of it, the nerve aspect, has been, that'd be really helpful to me. I'm just curious because, again, if you sit there and you go through the interwebs trying to find more information or figure out if what you're experiencing is normal or different or whatever, it's just hard to filter through all that. I think just connecting with actual people who've experienced it firsthand is by far the superior way. The only other thing I wanted to talk to go through today that is a little bit atypical is just talking about the comparison trap. And I'd like to say I don't compare myself to that's an outright lie. I think anybody who says I don't compare myself to anyone is deceiving themselves. Not to say that I don't try to not play that game. Because I'm aware that that's a dead end, and I know that. But at the same time, with this, it's hard not to, it's like I said, there's every end of the spectrum, right? There's some guy out there that has had the same injury and is doing, pull-ups 6 weeks later. Okay, like that guy's out there. There's a high-level strongman named Evan Singleton. He had the exact same injury like a month after I did. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, wow, this is going to be really helpful to see kind of what this guy does. This guy is doing obscene lifts 6-7 weeks post-op. And I'm looking at it going, okay, first of all, like I know I wasn't ever, that's not my expectation, but even just the ability to perform some of these movements with the poundages he's using at 6 weeks, if I'm being honest, I mean, it's kind of like it's a little bit of a shot, you're going, dude, what's that all about? Like, how is he able to do that? But that's a completely different world that guy's in, both the level of athlete, the pharmaceuticals and help that he has available to him to expedite his recovery, just the access, it's different, and on the other end, there's somebody out there who's, probably 16, 20 weeks after this and is still dealing with, mobility and pain that's not even allowing them to do hardly anything still. And so, and everyone else is somewhere in between that spectrum. And so, I've really been, again, I think I've said the word gratitude in every one of these videos, but I'm going to continue to speak towards that really as a little bit of an accountability reminder to myself, to, not focus on, well, hey man, they were able to do that, or, at 7, 8 weeks, they could do that. And, why can't I do that? Like that's just a dead end. That's not going to get you anywhere. Mentally, all that's going to do is beat you down. And so the important thing to focus on is, okay, where am I at? What am I able to do? And what can I, incrementally attempt to build on? And so that's kind of where I keep coming back to. And again, I'd be lying to you if I say I've got that one figured out. That's a daily, sometimes hourly thing that I wrestle with. But at any rate, this week has definitively been more, I'm in a better place now than I was a week ago. I even did some real light, you couldn't even call it training, but I got on the double M bag, no gloves, no wraps, no anything, and just started trying to get my hands to move again. I also did a grip test with my physical therapist and arm measurements, which if you're a lifter or, any kind of meathead mentality, like that one was very humbling. And so, we measured, first of all, grip on the good arm, which in my case is my non-dominant arm, my left arm. And then we did the same thing with the right. We've got the numbers and measured it off, taped everything off, the size of the arms. Mine was there wasn't a huge gap. And again, I'm thankful for that. I think that's because I've done so much to kind of keep the arm alive versus going into just complete atrophy over the last 3 months. And so, but the grip portion, and again, a lot of the vlogs I watched, that was something that I know a lot of people, that everyone essentially had to work back from, right? Because you're just, particularly the finger strength. And so that's something that, but again, I haven't done a direct bicep movement since the operation. So once I start implementing that, which I would think would be in the next week or so, that should start gradually building me back up. Once I take the straps off for deadlifts, like that should start building the strength in that right arm up. Ideally, my therapist was explaining that your right should be 15 to 20 pounds, however they measure it, pounds per square inch or something. PSI? I have no idea. Anyways, there's a number, but it should be 15 to 20 points higher than your non-dominant arm. So I've got 40 points. I don't know if that's 40 pounds, but I don't know. I've got 40 something to get to where I would have, my right would be that much stronger than my left. And so I remember, again, Andy Baker said that to this day, and he's years post-op, his right arm is still like, he calls it like a rep short of his left arm. And so he's, kind of there, but he said basically, before my right was like one rep stronger than my left, now it's just flip-flop. So from that standpoint, that's kind of normal. I would absolutely accept that, once this is all said and done, but I'm going to go into it saying, no, I'm going to be, my right arm will ultimately be my dominant, stronger arm than my left, so particularly with boxing, I'd like to think I'm able to throw that right hand. Not that grip is necessarily tied to punching power, but I kind of feel like it all is. The stronger that right arm is, the stronger you're able to throw that punch. And so, but yeah, I was able to do some real light double M bad work just to just to move and feel like, hey, I might actually be able to throw hands a little bit down the road in the not too distant future. So again, appreciate you watching, kind of going through this whole thing with me. Please, if you're, a couple of guys that I've corresponded with, like, I love updates. Like, I just love to hear how people are doing it, and especially if they're struggling with something, because I've had just some really low days where I'm just like, I've been there. I'm still there from time to time. So, if you're struggling with that and you just want a listening ear, or, hey, did you ever have this issue or something, like, please fire away, because I just love to connect with you, on things like that. So, again, appreciate it, and see you next week.